Welcome to Stories Room. Enjoy listening and don't forget to subscribe. My name is Emma. I'm 31 and I live in New York City in the United States. I work in cybersecurity at a fairly large tech company that provides data protection services for international corporations and government agencies. My career has always been a huge part of my life. I love everything to do with IT, information security, and strategic defense against hacks. But until recently, I never thought I'd end up using my professional skills at home, let alone using them against my own husband. His name is Andrew, and he's 33. We've been married for 4 years. Not too long, but long enough for me to notice his strengths and weaknesses. Andrew had a real gift for presenting himself. In any group, he could easily become the life of the party, speak eloquently, and convince everyone that if we just tried a bit harder, we could move mountains. He exuded a sort of hypnotic charm that inspired confidence, and in hindsight, it seems he exploited that to further his own goals. But I, so absorbed in love and passion, didn't notice for a long time that he had a darker side. We met in a bar in Manhattan. I was celebrating a promotion, and he, as he said back then, just dropped in. He was smiling, dangerously charismatic, and within the first 5 minutes, he had my full attention. I remember the two of us, almost strangers, sipping champagne as soft music played, laughing about every random thought that popped into our heads. Even that very first night, we fell into each other's arms. Everything happened so fast, without any what-ifs or whys. We both ignited in an instant, as though we had been waiting for that spark. Soon we were dating, and 6 months later we got married. It all happened so fast that I barely had time to wonder if I truly knew him. At that point, the passion overshadowed everything else. We were both utterly captivated by each other. We spent countless intimate nights together, barely coming up for air until morning, forgetting the rest of the world, laughing, touching each other as though it might be our last day on earth. Our relationship was like a volcano, always ready to erupt, and after that, we were left with a blissful exhaustion, as though we had conquered the world. Unfortunately, that fiery haze turned out to be a veil that hid something far less innocent. At first, I didn't notice any problems. His charm affected me and everyone around him. He made new contacts effortlessly, could sell any idea to people I'd never managed to connect with. Because of his resourcefulness and charisma, we ended up going to a ton of parties, presentations, and social events. Sometimes, I had a vague inkling that Andrew wasn't always there as an invited guest, but was more likely weaseling his way in through acquaintances. But every time, he skillfully spun the story, so I ultimately believed everything was fine. My friends, especially my best friends, Margot and Haley, started to say early on that he promised too much and rarely delivered. I brushed them off, swearing we had it under control. To me, we were a team. I worked in the office from 9 to 6, bringing in a stable income, while he was an idea man, always searching for new projects, brainstorming, and encouraging me to dream bigger. Sure, he didn't earn much money, but he always insisted that soon, one of his projects would take off, and we'd be living a whole new life. Yet time went by, and his projects never materialized. He spent hours at pitch sessions or meeting with investors, but somehow none of it turned into actual money. I kept believing that if I just supported Andrew a bit longer, success would be ours. I suppose I have a flaw, or a virtue. Depending on your perspective, I'm inclined to take people at their word. Andrew took full advantage of that, more and more each day. We got through most of our marriage without serious fights. I got used to being the breadwinner, while he was always out chasing the next big venture. Occasionally, to ease the tension, we would plan a night of wild passion. The moment our eyes locked, I'd forget all my frustrations. He knew exactly how to melt my defenses, always found the right words. On those nights, when we ended up in the bedroom, all my anxieties disappeared. I would feel only his touch, his warm breath and lips, and hear my heartbeat pounding in my ears. We were like a volcano on the verge of an eruption, and afterward, We were left with a sweet, hazy comfort, almost like we had conquered the world together. Too bad it never lasted beyond our bedroom walls. I first became suspicious when I noticed random charges on my credit cards. One time, Andrew took a pricey cab ride and claimed the app must have automatically charged your account. Another time, I found receipts from restaurants I'd never set foot in, and again he insisted it was just a glitch and that the money would be refunded. As a cybersecurity expert, I knew glitches like that were no small deal, so I'd inspect my statements. But whenever he looked at me with that sincere gaze, I'd let the matter drop almost immediately. One evening, as my suspicion grew, we had a night of incredibly intense lovemaking. I thought he was trying to distract me from my doubts, and it worked. I was completely swept away by his attention. In bed, he was gentle yet demanding in a way that made me feel like the most desired woman on earth. We spent the entire next day in that hotel room. He claimed it was some exclusive club promotion he'd signed up for, ordering food delivery, laughing, constantly touching each other. Little did I know he'd also spent that day snooping through my phone and computer, trying to find more access to my finances. As I learned later, he'd had his eye on my credit cards for a while. It all collapsed about 3 weeks ago. I was working from home on a tight deadline for a big project. Around 2 in the morning, I woke up to find Andrew missing from bed. Feeling uneasy, I went into the living room and saw the faint glow of my laptop. I quietly approached and realized he was taking pictures of my screen with his phone. The moment he noticed me, he panicked and closed everything. "Hey, what are you doing?" I asked, doing my best to sound only mildly curious. "Oh, nothing," he replied, voice trembling slightly. I couldn't sleep, so I was just checking flights to Los Angeles. We did talk about vacationing there, right? His smile looked forced. I decided not to start a fight right then, but I was rattled. Part of me wondered if it was all just an odd coincidence. Yet my professional instincts were screaming that he was up to something. The next morning, I checked my corporate email. It synced to my personal account to ensure I don't miss urgent notices. There were tons of alerts about failed login attempts to our cybersecurity training portal, the one I oversee at work. Anyone who doesn't know about tech might have brushed it off, but not me. Obviously, Andrew had tried to get hold of data from my training credit card, which we use for demonstration purposes in a test environment. That card had a virtual limit, but real transactions still showed up in the logs, so we could teach our colleagues how to detect fraud. The system flagged an alert. An unauthorized user from my home IP address had accessed these payment details. For me, that confirmed everything. Andrew had gone where he shouldn't, probably believing that was just one more personal card of mine, or not grasping how comprehensive our security monitoring was. While I was still reeling, I got a call from my friend and attorney, Benjamin. Everyone calls him Ben. I filled him in briefly, and he whistled in surprise. "Well, if this is that training card you're talking about, everything's documented with top-tier proof," he said. I felt torn. This was my husband. I didn't want to destroy him. But at the same time, he'd already gone too far stealing money. Our relationship was already fragile. I could either turn a blind eye, or I could stop him before things got even worse. Over the next few days, I watched the charges on the statement grow. Andrew was splurging like never before. He bought designer clothes, a first-class airline ticket to LA, and booked a room in one of the city's most luxurious hotels. I'd get notification after notification for each purchase, gritting my teeth every time. And inside, my resolve strengthened. This man had crossed all lines. Then, about a week after his spending spree, he reappeared. It was late afternoon. He strolled in, practically glowing, hauling 2 massive suitcases with high-end brand logos. He was wearing a new suit, his sunglasses poking out of his breast pocket. It looked like he'd just finished a runway show. He thumped the suitcases down on the floor and spun around for effect, as if to say, "Look at me. Emma, you won't believe it," he exclaimed. "I found investors. We're going to be filthy rich soon, and I got tons of surprises for us." He clearly expected me to jump for joy, or at least ask for details. Instead, I gave him a cold smile and looked him straight in the eyes. Really? Do you believe all the things you're saying? He blinked, not anticipating my attitude, but recovered quickly. Honey, I know things haven't always been smooth for us, but that's in the past. Everything's about to change now. I said I have a plan. I nodded without breaking eye contact. Inside, my emotions were in turmoil. Anger, hurt, and a strange sense of relief, because I knew I was finally about to free myself. All right, Andrew, tell me more. How was L.A.? He must have assumed all was forgiven. He settled onto the couch and pulled out an expensive watch from the suitcase, slipping it onto his wrist with a smirk. It was incredible. 5 stars. I live like a king. Had a car with a driver, went to top restaurants, mingled with the city's best business people. Trust me, we're about to see a bright future. I sat beside him, pretending to care. So, no regrets? None, he declared, brimming with pride. He even tried to hug me. Come on, Em, let's not fight. Let's celebrate my return. Something inside me snapped. His touch, once enough to make me forget the world, felt repulsive. I gently removed his hand. Andrew, how about we be honest? You stole my information, my credit card, and your troubles are just beginning. He frowned, struggling to keep calm. Stop that nonsense, he snapped. Maybe there was a glitch in your system, Emma. I gave a dry laugh. My system doesn't glitch. You, on the other hand, sure do. And I'm done tolerating it. The following day, I went to Ben's office. He'd already gathered the evidence with help from my colleagues. Our cybersecurity training system records every transaction and logs it in a database. Plus, we had IP logs from my own home and pictures Andrew had snapped from my laptop. Ben was direct. Emma, if you want to press charges, we can involve the police. But it's your choice, he's still your husband. My heart sank. I weighed my options, thinking how much I once cared about Andrew. Yet he'd stolen from me, broken my trust, and, honestly, our marriage had been a lie for a long time. Do whatever you have to, I said. I won't stand in the way, and I'm filing for divorce. Things got more dramatic than I'd expected. When Andrew realized an investigation was underway, he tried to play the victim, begging me to drop the charges one day, then threatening to expose me the next. But I had a top-notch legal and IT team, and most importantly, the truth was on my side. One night, he stormed into our apartment, clearly on edge. I was in the bedroom, packing my things to move out. He slammed the door shut. You don't know what you're doing, he yelled. If they lock me up, you'll have to live with that guilt. I gazed at him calmly. No, I won't. I didn't do this, Andrew, you did. He strode up to me, and for a split second, I feared he might become violent. Instead, he grabbed my shoulders, pulling me close. His eyes were wild and desperate. Why are you doing this? You know, I just wanted a better life for us. Yes, I made a mistake, but I didn't kill anyone, didn't assault anyone, didn't spy for an enemy nation. I just needed a little. You needed a free ride, I interrupted. At my expense. He was still gripping me, his breath hot on my neck. Suddenly, the tension shifted into a confused mix of anger and lingering desire. We were alone in the apartment, filled with mutual resentment, but also a spark of the passion that once bound us. He pressed closer to me, and I felt his hand move through my hair while his other arm circled my waist, pulling me tight. My heart pounded. I realized this might be our final moment of intimacy, our last glimpse of a love once so strong, now drowning in betrayal. I stood still, fighting conflicting urges when he began to kiss my neck. A wave of heat and adrenaline coursed through my body. We both lost our grip on reason for an instant. His kisses were fierce and desperate, as though he was trying to cling to what we'd already lost. For a moment, I let out a quiet moan when he bit my lip and then ran his hand down my thigh. I felt a sharp thrill, and we collapsed onto the bed, no longer sure what was right or wrong. Our bodies, once so perfectly in tune, now locked in a chaotic push and pull, part anger, part raw lust. When it was over, we lay side by side, breathing heavily. I stared at the ceiling, aware that this was truly the end. Neither the heat of our bodies nor those rolling waves of pleasure could rebuild trust. "Emma," he whispered, reaching for my hand. I pulled it away. My eyes locked on his. That was a mistake. Goodbye, Andrew. The next morning, I finished packing and moved to my friend Haley's place. A few days later, the police officially summoned Andrew for questioning. He tried to wiggle out, claiming, "My wife authorized the charges, but the technical proof said otherwise." Thanks to Ben and my co-workers, the case moved quickly. The investigating officer, David Morgan, laid it all out. Andrew had intentionally accessed confidential data and spent over $15,000 on personal expenses, forging signatures and electronic authorizations. This was identity theft, a serious crime in the U.S. carrying prison time. Realizing a stint in prison was on the table, Andrew struck a plea deal. He hired a pricey lawyer. The irony of that wasn't lost on me. Who knows where he got the money? Ultimately, he avoided a full prison sentence in exchange for an admission of guilt, covering the losses, and performing mandatory community service. We got divorced. The legal proceedings were straightforward for me. I submitted all the evidence, and the judge promptly ruled in my favor. Andrew had to repay everything and pay hefty fines. His reputation lay in ruins, and his big projects fell apart because nobody wanted to partner with someone implicated in cyber fraud. In the aftermath, I felt both relief and a strange emptiness. Yes, I got justice and protected my finances. Yes, I stood up for myself. Still, this was the man I'd once been married to, the man I'd once adored. It's never easy to destroy the illusions you've built for yourself. To clear my head, I decided to do something I'd long postponed, a trip to the mountains. I chose Grand Teton National Park in Wyoming, rented a cabin, and spent a week alone with nature. Each morning, I went on long hikes, admiring lakes, mountains, and sunrises. By evening, I'd sit by the fireplace sipping hot cocoa. I'd meet other travelers, chat a bit, but mostly kept to myself. It helped me heal. One night, I dreamt that Andrew and I were again tangled in each other's arms. In my dream, my heart pounded exactly as it did in the old days. Then I woke up, tears in my eyes, a hollow ache in my chest. Yet I knew it was something I had to work through, honestly and without self-deception. Sometimes love isn't just a gift. It can be a dangerous addiction. I grasped how tempting it is to wonder, maybe it wasn't so bad. But I stood firm. There was no going back. When I returned to New York, I found an email from Andrew. In it, he said he realized how badly he'd messed up, that he never wanted to hurt me, that he'd been cornered by debts and the feeling he wasn't contributing enough. He asked for forgiveness, promising to change. But the letter didn't move me. I could see he still didn't understand his real problem. He'd been lying to himself and to me from the start. I put the letter aside without replying. I had said everything I needed to in court. I had done what had to be done, ending our relationship for good. The following months started a new chapter for me. I moved into a cozy one-bedroom in Brooklyn. I threw myself into work, where I got another promotion, becoming head of my department. Along with my team, I developed better systems to prevent data leaks. It gave me a sense of purpose, a mission, protecting innocent users from people like Andrew. That sense of purpose fueled me and gave me new strength. Surprisingly, I discovered new kinds of joy and freedom. Where I used to fear being alone, worrying that divorce would leave me lonely, I now felt like I'd been unchained. I could come home whenever I wanted. I could spontaneously meet my friends at a bar and flirt with a cute stranger, not reporting to anyone or feeling guilty. I could invite someone over for the night if I wanted to. And I didn't feel even a hint of remorse about Andrew. I was free. I had a few brief flings. I wasn't racing into a new commitment, but didn't want to deny myself some fun. I spent a couple of intense nights with one guy, Trevor, who was a photographer and had a knack for capturing beauty, not just in photos, but also behind closed doors. His touches were gentle yet passionate, and he loved my body. I reveled in giving in to the moment without worrying about tomorrow. It felt easy, light, and liberating. And in the dim glow of my bedside lamp, while looking into Trevor's eyes, I realized I had finally learned to feel alive again, unshackled by old grudges. We eventually parted ways when he went off to South America for a photo project. I was grateful to him for proving I could trust myself again without letting memories of betrayal hold me back. After a while, Andrew's name stopped making me flinch. Sometimes I'd remember the past, but without pain, more like a dramatic movie where I had played the heroine. I'd survive his betrayal and heartbreak. I'd come out stronger. Occasionally, rumors surfaced that Andrew was attempting to piece his life back together. Apparently, he got a job at a marketing firm, starting over. I felt no bitterness, only indifference and a slight tinge of pity. Deep down, I hoped he'd truly become a better person in the future. But our paths no longer intersected. Now I look at my story as an important lesson. My marriage to Andrew showed me how strong I can be when I have to protect myself. It showed me passion can't replace genuine trust, and love without honesty will inevitably fall apart. It showed me if someone betrays you, you shouldn't cover for them just to keep up appearances. In my work, I'm now prouder than ever to focus on data protection, helping people, companies, and organizations safeguard themselves against leaks and financial fraud became personal. I know all too well what it's like when your boundaries are violated, and I'll do everything possible to prevent others from experiencing that same pain. Some weekends, I brew my favorite jasmine green tea, open my laptop, and reread old case reports. Not to upset myself, but to remind myself never to fall for illusions again. I see the scans of transactions for plane tickets, luxury hotels, designer items, and remember how Andrew once came home, decked out in brand logos, while I quietly smiled, knowing he'd fallen into a trap he had set for himself unaware. It no longer hurts. If anything, it makes me smile at how much life changes when you stop shutting your eyes to reality. That's the end of my story. I hope it serves as an example or warning for someone out there. If you've read or listened all the way through, let me know which country you're from. And don't forget to subscribe, because every day I try to share real stories that might prove useful in life. Take care of yourselves, your hearts, and, of course, your personal data. And remember, sometimes the greatest danger can come from the one who pretends to be your closest friend. But that's no reason to lose faith in goodness or love. It's a reason to learn to tell the real from the fake, and to protect yourself against anyone who'd cross your boundaries. Life goes on, and perhaps the best part is yet to come. That's the end of our story. Make sure to subscribe to our channel to stay up to date on new stories, and share this video so others can discover these great stories too.